Well, that was neat. It automatically started my Twitch stream today. Let's make sure that's actually going. It sure is. I've never had it automatically start my Twitch stream before, so I'm like really baffled by this. Because we're multi-streaming, and I know we're not supposed to, but we are. So, welcome everybody. Obviously, I'm Chris, the most handsome guy you're gonna meet on Twitch. I hope. Probably not, but that's okay. I'll tell myself I am, and that's all that matters to me. No, you don't want to look at this. This is boring. This is my social media post schedule. There we go. Let's look at Grey Knights and Tsons. We'll actually start with Tsons. Let me pull them up here. Boop, boop. Oh, God, what is that? Little bug. Bug is getting me. And, shout out if you're on Twitch, say hi to the YouTube chat. YouTube, say hi to Twitch. I like to try to promote some cross platform conversations, even if I have to play middleman. We had a little bit the other day. There we go. Let's see. Custodes. Nobody cares about those guys. Cringe. Faction focus orcs. There we go, Tsons. Yeah, I was not thrilled with the orc faction focus, but I just had to remind myself that it's an index, right? There were some questionable things in there, made me get the feel bads, but there's some things in there that are definitely workable. I just feel like it's going to be about where it was before we get crazy and dig into that for the next hour. Let's look at Tsons. The sorcerers of the Thousand Suns claim mastery over eldritch powers and forbidden lore. They draw the warp, the rolling extra-dimensional ocean of psychic energy that underpins reality, to chart the course of fate, alter the course of time, and incinerate any opposition with conflagrations of coruscating warp fire. Yep, that's what we did. All is dust, bro. Okay. I'm done being a clown for right now. Sorry. Let's see. Thousand Suns are an army choice for anybody who, really anybody who has self-loathing. They're kind of like orcs in that regard. I'm just joking. I've got some friends that are T-Suns players, but they are filled with self-loathing, so maybe it's true. Faction rules. This is what I care about. I know some of you guys are lore guys. I'm kind of mixed on the lore. We've had that talk before. I don't hate it. I don't love it. There's things about it I like, things about it I don't. But especially when it comes to like anything in power armor, not interested. So, Thousand Suns wage war through the command of the arcane, conducting esoteric rituals that allow them to dominate the battlefield, like your mum. This cabal of sorcerers pools their powers together each battle round, individual units generating cabal points, which you get to spend to perform a variety of potent rituals. All right, so let's look at the Cabal of Sorcerers. I've actually already looked through this. I got to look through it yesterday, but let's look through it right now. If your army faction is Thousand Suns, at the end of your command phase, each model from your army with this ability that is... Oh, sorry. Each model from your army with this ability that is on the battlefield, excluding battle-shocked models, generates a number of Cabal points equal to the number shown in its ability. So a model of Cabal, Sorcerer, blah, 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 blah. So if it's Cabal of Sorcerers 2, they generate 2 Cabal points. Pretty straightforward. Your total is your Cabal pool. During the battle round, you can use rituals from the list below, deducting the points cost of each one from your Cabal points pool. If you do not have enough points for a ritual, you cannot use it. Each ritual may only be used once per phase. At the start of your next command phase, your Cabal points resets to 0. So really what it sounds like, during the battle, use rituals. Okay, so it'll tell you when to use it. So really what it sounds like, right, is it sounds like they effectively just get a psychic phase, right? Like they still get to cast their spells. You just no longer have to roll for it. You just get points. They get to do it automatically. and that just sounds like what it is. Kind of like a magic point system. That's all it is. Psychers have become more specialized in the new edition, but the Sons of Magnus has ever defied convention. Each ritual is a blah 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 blah. Yep, cool. Weaver of Fate. Anyway, I don't know, man. Something's not working in my brain today. It's a day. Use this ritual. So Weaver of Fate. You get to use this ritual at the start of any phase. During that phase, when a saving throw is failed for a friendly Thousand Sons model, you can reroll that saving throw. Within 18 inches. Okay, so it's like an aura. Let me double check that. Each time you use a ritual. I wanted to see what it said about using it once. Is it once per phase or once per battle or turn? Oh, it was up here, right? Where did I see that? Blah, 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 blah. Ability generate. During the battle, you can use rituals. Each ritual, once per phase. So you could actually use Weaver of Fates every phase, theoretically, if you had the Cabal points. That's what I was curious about. So you pick a Psyker. He does Weaver of Fates. Then once during that phase, when a saving throw is failed, you can reroll that saving throw. So 2 points, you get a free, basically, command point reroll on a saving throw. Temporal Surge, 5 command points, and that's just warp time. You use it in your shooting phase, and then you select a unit within 18 inches of the Psyker, and then it gets to make a normal move, but it doesn't get to charge. And it doesn't say when in the shooting phase, so you just get to do it before or after you shoot. It doesn't matter. Oh, I guess it says at the start of your shooting phase. My bad. Use this ritual at the start of your shooting phase. Reading is hard today. I'm sure you've all realized, like, I don't know, I'm just a little silly right now. Echoes from the Warp. Use this ritual at the start of any phase. Once this phase, you can select this Psyker's unit as the target, blah, blah, blah. Oh, so you can do a free stratagem on that Psyker, and you can use it even if you've already used it that phase. So you could double up on a strat. Doombolt is 7 Cabal points. Use this ritual at the start of your shooting phase. Select one enemy unit within 18 inches of invisible and roll a d6. On a 1, it takes d3 mortals. On 2 through 5, d3 plus 3. On a 6, d3 plus 6. Yeah, I get it. It's there. And at least it's just a single power now instead of just like, here, eat 10,000 smites. Because that's not fun, right? Not that it was good or bad. I'm not saying Tsons were OP or not OP, but that's not a fun interaction. When in someone's psychic phase, they just do unmitigated damage, and there's nothing I can do about it. Like that is poor rules design for a multiplayer game for one player to be the only one interacting in a damage dealing phase. That's why I've continuously said why I'm not really a fan of Mortal Wounds, because they just happen. There's no actual interaction. And it just makes them inherently more powerful than anything else, and they don't feel special. But is a good power. Like I'm not complaining about the power. I would much rather deal with one of these per phase. So in the shooting phase, only one of them gets to smite me. But I think they've got like a smite power anyway. Use this ritual at the start of any phase. Select one. Blah 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 blah. So this one kind of shitty. Now it does say armor saving throw. So if your unit has an invulnerable save, you'll still get that, I assume. Because it just says armor saving throws. It doesn't say just saving throws. So the insinuation there, to me, is that you'll still get whatever invulnerable save you might have. But again, at this point, we're effectively just doing mortal wounds to one single unit. Kind of shitty, right? Not that it's good or bad. Again, I'm not speaking on its strength in the game. It is a fairly powerful ability to be able to look at a unit of Marines and be like, oh, your 3-up save doesn't exist. Pick them up, right? Like that is inherently a powerful ability. And if there's no, oh man, there's no trigger on that. So you could hit like a Land Raider with that thing and just be like, pick it up. I'm just going to kill it with bolt guns. Anything that doesn't have an invulnerable save, and again, I'm making the assumption that invulnerable saves are still separate from armor saves. So that's actually really powerful because you basically get to pick any one unit that you are in range with and probably kill it. Just because, I mean, you still have to hit and wound, but just because of the fact that there will just be no armor saves allowed, it's effectively just pick a unit, all your damage is mortal wounds, pick it up. So again, it's not a fun mechanic. It'll be fun for the Tsons players, but it's going to be one of those that probably generates a bit of salt in games. Everybody should just play shitty armies like orcs, because then you don't care when you lose your armor save because you never had one to begin with. But no, it's just one of those where it's interesting, because I was in a Discord and somebody was like, I just don't know how Tsons are going to deal with vehicles. Well, this is how they're going to deal with vehicles. If it doesn't have an invulnerable save, pick up your Dreadnought. Yeah, you're only killing one a turn, but if you can pick one of your enemy's best units and just be like, go away, is going to be pretty strong. Thousand Suns, Cult of Magic, Detachment Rule, Kindred Sorcery. In your command phase, you can select one of these abilities listed below. So again, we get another army where every command phase for the whole game, you get to pick, right? Psychic weapons have lethal hits, which are 6's auto wound, 6's explode, or wounds of 6 do mortal wounds. So this is actually not terrible. I like these bonuses. I'm not speaking from a fluff or lore standpoint. I just mean in general. These are solid. Having to pick one of them is pretty good. Most games I would probably pick 6's explode and just ride that the whole time. It's just who I am. All right, Hairy Man. What's he got? Let's zoom it in a little bit. So he moves 6. He's T4, 3+ save, 5 wounds, 6 leadership, 1 objective control, which I don't think he really changed much in terms of his data sheet. He does have an Inferno bolt pistol. Now I noticed that the bolt pistols did go down a single AP, so that's pretty interesting. They've been -2 for a long time. But that is made up for with some of the other guys having wound rolls of 6, do an extra pip of AP, which we'll get into. So the Psychic Stalk, I assume that's some sort of weird bolt that he shoots out of his staff. I don't know. Or it's like a spell. It has precision, so he can snipe characters with it, so be careful. Because even though it's a single shot, it is strength 6 -1 d6. He can one-shot a lot of characters. It's not likely, but he can. So you're going to want to be kind of careful around him. And then he's got the Black Staff of Hairy Man. And it gets 5 attacks, so he gets a lot of attacks. I feel like he didn't have 5 before. Maybe he did. Hits on 2s, and he's 7-1-3. So I think that's pretty close to what he was in 9th. I didn't play them, but again, I have friends that did. Now, he does give you 3 Cabal points, so that's pretty cool. And that kind of lets you know where the Cabal points are going to be at. They're not going to be just sitting on this massive pool of them. And as you kill units or cause them to battle shock, which is interesting, that means Tsons will have to roll battle shock tests now. I didn't even think about that. In present edition, and I believe in 8th, they just didn't roll leadership. But now it's looking like they have to. While this model is leading a unit, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, add 1 to the wound roll. So he makes a single unit +1 to wound all the time. So again, depending on what the whole book looks like, I could probably see him being on a unit of flamers if they're still around. Just because they auto hit, so you're skipping that and just going straight to wounds. And again, if we stack it with the ritual where people don't get saves, you get your flamers with +1 to wounds. You could put a lot of damage on a single unit and skip that hit roll and just try to, just roll buckets of dice. Let's see. Once per battle, you can select this model to use a ritual for 0 Cabal points. Yeah, so there's also that. Invulnerable save, 4+, pretty standard for the characters. Rubric Marines, so they do still move 5. I was curious if they were going to move 6, but they move 5. All right, is there anything I need to be aware of? Nope. Sorry, I don't normally check my phone, as you guys know, but every once in a while it just starts going, which was just now. So again, there's some speculation going on that I'll be doing just because we don't have everything in front of us. But I do know kind of how the squads were constructed before. It's probably going to be the sorcerer gets a staff and a pistol, and then everybody else gets a bolt gun, and then you get one of each special weapon, is my assumption, or heavy weapon. Because I think that's roughly how it works now, and it makes sense. So the Inferno Bolt Pistol, we've already looked at. Inferno Bolt Gun is again, same thing. It's no longer rapid fire. It just always gets 2 attacks, which is also interesting. Very, very handy. Strength 4 -1, 1 damage. Did go down in AP, like I said. Plasma pistol is a plasma pistol. There's nothing new there. So the Soul Reaper cannon, I believe, went down quite a bit in AP. I want to say that was like 631. Like that thing was gross. And 6 shots, and it's still 6 shots. It might have been 5 before, but it was a very high volume number of dice. And it now just has devastating wounds, which just means its wounds of 6 are a mortal wound instead of regular damage, which again is what it is. We've seen that all over. Like, there's so many things that have it. Warps my anti-infantry. So, yeah, here we go. And this is, I'm guessing that this is because it's a psychic attack. Only the sorcerer will get it. So only one model in that squad is going to get it. But this is really rough. It's only 2 attacks, but it auto wounds infantry on 4s, and all its wounds to infantry are just mortal wounds. So it's just like their smites never really went away, right? And it just, again, is what it is. It doesn't hurt vehicles. I mean, it does, but it's not likely to. At strength 4, it's going to be wounding most vehicles on 5s or 6s. And I say 5s because I don't know what, like, Coptas are going to look like. I don't know if they're going to be like T7 or how that's going to shake out. But most of it's going to be on 6s. Like, rhinos are T9, so you're wounding rhinos on 6s. Which just means your wounds are going to do mortals to the rhino, which again, that type of interaction doesn't make sense to me, right? I really feel like there should be some sort of differentiation between like devastating wounds for vehicles, devastating wounds for monsters. It just seems weird that a successful wound from this warp smite is just mortal wounds to a rhino. But I'm not on the rules team, as we've discussed. It's just some weird things that I've seen with this edition and how the rules interact. But it is effectively a smite. It's 18 inches. You get 2 attacks. You do have to roll the hit roll, and then you're going to have to roll the wound roll. So it means you're probably going to average. I mean, you might average like a mortal wound a turn. Let's see. Warp Flame Pistol. It's just the flamers, so the flamers are there. Ignore cover and torrent, and they're -1. So I think that's how they get away with kind of reducing some of the AP. They've got their 5-up invuln, and then hit or wound rolls of 6 increase the AP by 1. That's right here. So they go to AP2. They ignore cover. Like, that's kind of how they got to where they are. And then they inherently reroll wound rolls of 1 in ranged attacks. If the target is within range of an objective marker you don't control, you get to reroll wounds instead. So that's pretty spicy. Not gonna lie, like that's All right. And then the other thing was the Warp Vortex. So this dude's pretty neat. He's on the what's it called? The Mutalith Vortex Beast. Super cool models. If you've never seen one, I recommend checking them out. Actually, you know what? We're gonna check them out right now, because it is a cool model. And I'll have to zoom you out again. Nope. Vortex Beast. Well, they're still in stock. I really love that ghost ship, dude. I'm gonna go look at that in a minute too. Sorry. It's what we're doing. We're gonna have a model interlude. I love that model. No, this thing's super cool. I love it. Um, Absolutely love it. This thing is amazing. I love this thing. I want it so bad. Not for anything. I don't play AOS. And even if I did, this isn't the army I'd play. I am building a Sylvaneth army, but I don't know what I'm doing with it outside of using it for my stuff. I just love this model. AOS has some of the most gorgeous models. I can't even argue that. Um, like I said, I'm building a game, and I'm using Sylvaneth for a lot of my army. I'll probably play some AOS with it. I'm not a huge fan of the game, but we have dudes that run AOS tournaments, and I'd like to get out and support those guys because they come out to my events and support me, and it's just a good way to help the communities. So, all right, sorry for that little digression. So this handsome dude gets 3 attacks with his warp vortex. He's got the blast, the beam, and the torrent, and this little arrow just means you pick one. So if you do the blast, you get a d6 plus 3 shots with blast. They're strength 9 minus 2 damage. So that means you're going to do 4 to 9 shots, and then you add one for every 5 models in a unit. So, man, that new blast just sounds rough. It sounds really rough. Like, this thing will just mulch Orc Boys. And I just keep thinking about that. And I get it's one gun. I just keep thinking about, like, I just am not sold that this is going to be an addition where I get to bring big squads. I'm going to try it. We'll see how it goes. Then it's got a beam. It's a single shot for D6 plus 6. It's kind of like a rail gun or the Hecaton gun. It has strength 18, so it's going to wound a lot of vehicles on 2s or 3s. And it does have devastating wounds because what gun wouldn't be complete without devastating wounds? And then Torrent. It ignores cover and it's Torrent, so it just auto hits. It's just a flamer, a strength 6 heavy flamer. So again, really versatile attacks. I like it, and it's a super cool model, so hopefully I'll see some on the table. Let's see. And then while a friendly Tsons Psyker unit is within 6 inches of this model, you can double the range of a ritual when it resolves a ritual. That's really excessive. A lot of those rituals had like an 18-inch range. So now it just becomes like, yeah, you just pick something on the board. Yeah, see? Any phase just after the enemy unit has selected its targets, one Tsons unit from your army that was selected as the target of one or more of the attacking unit's attacks. Until the end of the phase, all attacks made against your unit have the hazardous ability. Yep. So any phase in which I'm going to allocate attacks to, so like let's say I'm charging somebody with some Orc Boys. For 1 CP, you could just be like, all your Orc Boys, their choppas have hazardous. Okay. But only if they're psychic weapons. Psychic weapons have hazardous. So not really going to matter for me because I just don't think Weird Boys are going to be good. So that's it. I do think so. Before we move on, I think the Tsons look like a very interesting army. I think they have some neat mechanics and gimmicks, and I think there's some cool ways to layer things. I don't know. Again, we don't know. We don't see the whole codex. We don't have 100% all the rules or indexes and stuff. But I think they did a good job of trying to capture the feel of a Tsons army. Now that like the psychic phase is gone, I think they kind of did a good job giving Tsons players a way to still give them that psychic Tsons feel. I could be way off. Again, I don't play the army, but just looking at it on paper, it looks like a very neat and flavorful army. And I don't know if it'll be quote unquote good, but I do think it'll be interesting to see on the table, and I think it'll be kind of cool and fun, despite like my pissy ramblings about the mortal wounds. All right, let's look at Gray Knights. So Gray Knights are a weird army because they are literally an every phase army. There's not a lot of those, not to the extent that Grey Knights are. It's like Tyranids, Grey Knights, and Eldar. Like those are the three every phase armies in which they interact with every phase pretty well. The Incorruptible. I'm not reading that this time. Sorry, guys. I can't not doing it. One chapter versus every demon in the game. Like, see, it just made me think of my favorite Game of Thrones scene. That's when the Hound is like eating that dude's chicken, and he's just like every fucking chicken in the room. And I don't know, that just popped into my head as soon as I read that. Sorry, every fucking demon in the galaxy. So that's just how good the Grey Knights are. Apologies if you're in England and you are offended by my atrocious accent, but here we are. I won't make fun of your American accent if you don't make fun of my English ones. All right, faction rules. Teleport assault. If your army faction is Grey Knights, at the end of your opponent's turn, you can select a number of Grey Knights units from your army with this ability, excluding units that are within engagement range. So in a strike force, you can select up to 3 units with that ability. Remove those from the battlefield in the reinforcement step of your next movement phase. Set those units up anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 inches horizontally away from all enemy models. Okay. Okay, I just wanted to read that fully. So if you're a Grey Knights player, at the end of my turn, you could pick up to 3 units with the teleport assault ability, it looks like. And then basically put them into deep strike. And then in your reinforcement step of your next movement phase, you have to set them up. It doesn't say you may, it says you set them up. So keep that in mind, Grey Knights players. You're not going to be able to hold them up there for multiple turns based on what I'm seeing. That's why I wanted to reread that completely. Because it specifically says in the reinforcement step of your next movement phase, set those units up. So, and again, like mostly for friendly games, a lot of people probably aren't going to bitch unless it's something you do a lot of time. If you're just constantly forgetting, you might get some like, hey, dude, no, they gone this time, just to help you learn. But like at a tournament, I can tell you this much, man. Like, unless you're a super cool dude, it's not happening. I've definitely run into that where dudes have just been assholes and then they've forgotten something, and I'm like, sorry, bro. Because generally I'm real chill. Like I'll allow you to do a lot of things. Because I forget stuff too, or I might not say it. Like if I take RND for example, sometimes I forget to tell them, and then I don't shoot with the unit, and then I'm like, hey man, I forgot to tell you. I'm gonna do RND here. If it's a problem, I won't do it. But if you're cool with it, I'm just gonna do it. That was why they never shot. We have those conversations. But I've had games with people who were just like, man, super picky and really just like, I don't know, man. Like, like it's a game. I'm here to play with you. I'm not here to play by myself. And like, so when people are kind of mean or rude, I'm just like, sorry, bro. During the declare battle formation step, if every unit, is this a... All right, sorry. During the declare battle formation step, if every model in the unit has this ability, you can put it in reserves instead of setting it on the battlefield. So it's just deep strike. Obviously it's just deep strike, but it's literally just deep strike. So, sure. It's interesting. The ability to pick up a handful of units. So every infantry unit can deep strike. And again, I haven't seen anything that limits what you can put into reserves. I've only seen a limit on strategic reserves. Now, I have to double check that in the rule book, but I actually have that video going to be getting uploaded here pretty soon. Probably by the end of today. If not, then sometime this weekend. Teleport Shunt. Each time a Grey Knights unit with the deep strike ability, do my... That's pretty cool. So if Grey Knights units have the deep strike ability, if they advance, they auto advance 6 and they gain the fly keyword until the end of the phase. That's actually really neat. I like that. Purgation Squad. So they move. Yep, their power armor looks pretty standard fare. They're 2-up save. Oh, because Grey Knights are all like Terminators and stuff, I think, aren't they? Incinerator, which is just a Strength 6 Flamer. Silencer. It is a psychic attack. That's interesting. Ooh, man. Tsons be like hazardous, bitch. Sustained hits. So 6 attacks hitting on 3, strength 5, 0 AP. 1 damage, but it's 6 shots. And 6s explode. And then the Psy Cannon, which is 812, which I think isn't too far off. I think it was 722 or 712. And again, I'm curious to see, aside from wounding Marines on 2s, I'm curious to see if being Strength 8 is even going to matter, right? Like, I don't know, because, well, let me rephrase. I'm sure Orc vehicles are going to be like T7, T6 still. But, and maybe like land speeders. We haven't seen those yet. Let's see. And then Storm Bolters are rapid fire 2, so they get 2 shots, and then within half range, they get an additional 2 shots. Makes sense. Close combat weapons, 3. Yep. Nemesis force weapons. So all the different Nemesis weapons, it looks like, I don't know, just got consolidated into force weapon, and they're strength 6, -2, 2 damage with 3 attacks, which is a pretty solid profile. You know, whether you're angry about it or not, like that's a good profile. In your shooting phase, you can give models in this unit indirect, provided they target. Okay. So as long as you have a spotter, you can indirect fire with this unit. Again, we don't know exactly if and how Psychic interacts. Like, if it's just an automatic ability or if there's any kind of check for it. At least I don't. I haven't seen anything on it yet. Everything I've seen about this right here, the Psychic, though, is it's literally just a keyword. I actually posted a picture, a screenshot of it on YouTube, because it's literally, the rule is just psychic, and then the rules say that it's basically like a psychic attack is an attack that has the psychic keyword. Like, it's just this weird fucking circular logic thing that we do. But I mean, that basically means like this unit is going to be able to ignore line of sight most targets, right? It's kind of neat. Grandmaster in Nemesis Dread Knight. He's T8, so they went from T6 to T8. So that makes me curious to see if Coptas are going to go to T8. I don't think they do. I think they probably sit at 7. Just because, like, it seemed silly that the NDK and the Copta had. Honestly, it does. Even as an Orc player, it seems silly that the NDK and the Copta had the same toughness. So if Coptas go to 7, I'm not going to be upset. If they go to 8, I'm going to be super happy, right? I'm not going to complain. Either way. Is silly that Gaskell is T6 and then this dude is T8, but it's a complaint for another day. Let's see. He's got 13 wounds, so he's pretty thick, pretty chonky. Leadership 6, he's OC 4, and he moves 8. I think they move 9 right now. I could be wrong. He's got a GAT. It is 601. The Incinerator 611, and then the Psy Cannon is 1013. So the Psy Cannon went up in strength, maybe in damage. I could be wrong. Let's look at it actually. What is he? Grand Wizard? No, Grandmaster. Wahapedia. Ooh, let's check it out. Check it out. What's it all about? Dude, I'm so old. All right. Which one were we looking at? The heavy psi cannon. 822, so it went up in strength and damage. And then the heavy incinerator is basically the same, actually. That's neat. And then the Gatling silencer, 511. So it went up in strength, but down in AP. So it, to me, is not a huge change. So let's see what he's got. The fists get 6 attacks. They hit on 3s. Interesting. He's hitting on 3s. I wonder, we'll have to dig into this. There's probably ways to give him like +1s to hit or something. Anyway, let's look. Dread Fists, 6 attacks, weapon skill 3, strength 6, -1 damage. Okay, why would you ever? Oh, I wonder. No, they're not extra attacks. It's probably to keep them cheap, maybe, so you can give out the old fucking fisto. He's got a great hammer. Gets 5 attacks. That one is -1 to hit, but it's strength 14, -3, d6 +1. How does that compare? It's up in strength, but not like a. It's a -4, d3 +3. Okay, so it's to me that's a lateral move. You're up in strength, down in AP. The damage is lower just a hair, but it's not like it's a lateral move. The great sword is 10 2 d6, and I think it was like 8 3 d6. Let's look. God dang it. Nope, it was 10 3 d6. Okay. But it does get the sweep, which gets 10 attacks at 511, and these are at 622. So the sweeps got toned down a little bit, which I makes sense, right? Once per battle round in the fight phase, one model from your army with this ability can use it before resolving its attacks. If it does until the end of the phase, each time that model makes an attack that targets a monster or vehicle. So once per battle round in the fight phase, one model. So it's a spell basically. When targeting a monster or vehicle, you can reroll, hit roll, wound, and damage. Okay. So him or another unit with that ability can just get really efficient against vehicles and monsters. Each time you target this model with a stratagem, it costs 1 CP to use, even if it's higher. Okay. And then he's -1 to hit with 1 to 4 wounds remaining. Interesting. So I feel like I kind of felt like the NDKs in general were not oppressive, especially later in the edition. But when the book first came out, they were underpointed for what they did. A little bit overtuned. Again, not like this gross, like broken army kind of feel, but like they definitely were a little underpointed. What I'm seeing, like, even if we took this and slapped it into 9th edition, it would still be solid. Most people would bitch about it because it doesn't just instantly vaporize everything it looks like or looks at. But I feel like it's a good, solid unit. I do think it's interesting that he's hitting on 3s now instead of 4s, and I'm curious to know why. But I'm probably not getting an answer there. Purifying Flame, which is one of their spells. It's a single attack, strength 4, -1, 1 damage. It ignores cover, and it's anti-infantry too. But it doesn't have devastating wounds, so I'll take it. Each unit has a different psychic ability. And that's the other thing is I'm assuming that psychic attacks are once per unit, not once per model. but that's another thing I haven't found yet. Haloed in Soulfire. When your movement phase... Oh, that's actually pretty cool. If you come in from Deep Strike, you can just make it so people can't, or teleport assault abilities, right? Basically, if you come from off the table, not strategic reserves, but again, uh, you can use a stratagem to prevent people from shooting at you unless you're within 12 inches. That's actually kind of neat, and that's a good way to keep your models alive. One Grey Knight Psyker unit from your army until the end of the phase. Melee weapons equipped by... Oh, of course. Of course they do. We can't have a game without Wounds of 6 doing mortals. At least it's 2 CP, right? Um, and it's not just a spell, because that was rough. Like, when they had the Warp Tide and the spell... Hey, what's up, my man? Yeah, Radiant Strike looks pretty solid. Um, It's one of those where, in the current edition, when they have the Radiant Strike and they have, or not Radiant Strike, they have the spell and then the Tide of Conviction, and they're just doing so many mortals, and then they can hammer hands, and like it just like maybe you can't hammer hands with all of it, but it just gets a little ridiculous. It gets a little rough, but you actually just got in for the tail end of Grey Knights. All in all, from what I've seen from the Grey Knights, I think they did a really good job of capturing the flavor of the army. The mobility and the teleporting and just the kind of movement gimmicks that they've kind of always had. Done a really good job. I feel like there's not a lot in the way of their psychic abilities as a preview. I assume that teleport assault is just everything. Right. So it's just any unit, it looks like. But no, I think they did a good job. Like I said, the only thing that left me really scratching my head is looking at the Grandmaster and going, why does he hit on threes now? Like, there's probably something here that I'm not seeing. But that's the only thing that really left me scratching my head. All in all, they look pretty solid. They look like a very usable army. Gonna do some quick announcements real fast, and then if there's anything anybody else wants me to cover or talk about, just feel free to drop it in one of the chats, Twitch or YouTube. And then, yeah, let's talk about announcements real quick. Boop. Obviously, I'm not gonna have a video without asking people, hey, if you're watching this and you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. I try to do a live video every week. I typically do live games. I'm probably not doing any more stream games until I at least get the 10th edition rules in my hand for a couple of different reasons. First of those is I'm going to be out of town for a week this month, and then I've got 2 events that I'm planning. So my schedule is going to be really crazy as I kind of navigate through June and July, because I'll be out of town in July. I'm going to be a 40K judge for Games Workshop at the Kansas City Open, and then I'm going to be a 40K judge for Games Workshop in Tacoma in July, which means I'll get to be a judge for a 10th edition event, which will really get me a lot of hands-on time with the 10th edition rules, and I'm actually really excited for that. Let's see. Big shout out to Military Gaming Command. Again, they are a nonprofit organization. They work with veterans. I am a veteran, so that's why it's so important to me what they do. They use video games and gaming to kind of reach out to injured veterans, whether they're still in or not. Like, it could be active service members as well. They've gone to like Walter Reed and given switches away to people who were injured in combat, things of that nature. They do wonderful work. I know the board, not on a deeply personal level, but at least on a level where I have no problem saying that they are just wonderful and genuine human beings. So if you're curious about what they do, hit the website. I am doing an Apocalypse game fundraiser for that specific nonprofit on the 1st of July. That will be hosted by the ever awesome Brandon and Christy at Reliquary Gaming in Chesterton. So if you are interested in going, I've got a Facebook event already made for it. Feel free to email me, message me, drop a comment if you're interested also. And if you just want to donate, let me know and I can show you where you need to go to donate. That is too easy. I am running a tournament at the end of July. That will be hosted by my buddies over in Plymouth at Got Game. Shout out to Steve and Cam. They have done a great job of welcoming me into their venue and letting me use their tables to run events. Obviously, it benefits them also, but they don't have to do these things. I do have a couple of terrain build projects I'm going to be working on pretty soon here. Some of them will go on this channel. Some of them will go on another channel that I'm working on with my son. He wanted to start his own YouTube channel. So he and I are going to be sharing a YouTube channel for a little bit. And on that platform, one of the things that we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a terrain build. And actually, Halo Mantis toy. So we have one of these, right? And it's actually really big. Like this thing is probably 2.5 feet tall. And we're going to be breaking it up. We're going to be mounting it on little bases so it looks like more like a blown up or downed Titan type of thing. So that's what our plan is. So that one's going to go on that channel. I'm making some craters. That'll go on this channel. And then I've got some other terrain I'm going to be working on. So wanted to kind of touch on all those things. I appreciate everybody watching. Sorry I was a little weird today, a little goofy, a little out there. Just one of those days, I guess. Uh, and again, links here. I'll get them added to the description at some point today. And then I will have, by the end of today, a video up about the reinforcements and reserves. It'll either by the end of today or by the end of the weekend. It just kind of depends on how today goes. I still have some commandos to paint for tomorrow. I'm going to a tournament tomorrow. It'll be my last 9th edition tournament. I'll do a review on that one probably Monday, and then I will be gone starting Wednesday all the way till Tuesday in Kansas City. So, again, thanks for joining me. Have a good day. You're welcome for this awesome Midwestern goodbye. We will talk to you guys later.